Well, good morning, Sojourn. Peace be with you. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm really just kind of blown away by seeing how many folks were here. We really envisioned this would be all 10 of us around the piano talking to one another. So welcome. That's why I'm on the ground, and that's why the piano's down here. Merry Christmas. It's a real joy to be with you all. I was thinking this morning, it's going to be 11 years before we have Christmas on a Sunday again. And so think about how much may change in the next 11 years. My oldest is 9, and he will not be 9 in 11 years. And so it feels like a privilege to be with you guys this morning. Coming to this verse, we've been in Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. This is our 5th week now in our year-long journey through the book of Hebrews. And in some ways, we set up the whole series so that this verse would fall on this day. Because in some ways, Hebrews 4:16, to talk about Hebrews 4:16 on Christmas Day, teaches us nearly all we need to know of the life of faith. So this verse answers 3 big questions for us. Questions that I think probably everyone in this room has thought about at some point, maybe even recently. The first question is, where do we find God? The second question is, if we find him, how do we come to him? And the third question is, why should we come to him at all? So at Christmas, we all know where to find God. God is found in a stable. God is found surrounded by shepherds and animals. He was with a weary, exhausted mom and a surely confused father. Jesus was announced by angels, and then there he is, the baby God, asleep in a manger. Where is God found? God is found in a stable. And once you know God is found in a stable, everything changes. No one would have thought to look for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords in a stable. Have you thought about that? No one expected him to come the way he did or where he did. No one expected him there. And once you know God is found in a stable, that will mean you will look for God everywhere. Because if God will show up in a stable, there's nowhere he won't be. Where is God? God is in a stable, which means he is everywhere. He's with the hungry people we don't have to feed. He's with the lonely people that we don't have to comfort. One of my favorite authors, reflecting on this reality, wrote this. He said, God is found in the desperate human need of people everywhere that we are free to turn our backs on. If you want to find God, go to the stables of this world. If God is found in a stable, he'll be found anywhere. So the answer to the first question is easiest to answer on Christmas. Where is God found? God is found in a stable. If we know where he is now, how are we to come? Well, verse 16 tells us to come boldly. That means to come honestly. That means to come sincerely. That means to come without pretense. It means to come to God free of a curated presence. Do you all know what I mean by that? If you have an Instagram account, you know what I mean by a curated presence. Trying to manufacture how we're seen to the world around us. And let's not fool ourselves in thinking that we don't do that to God too. But to come boldly into his presence means to come honestly, plainly, directly, free from pretense. Maybe what it means is that we come to him like we would come to the baby in the stables. If you came to the baby in that stable, perhaps you would come cautiously so as to not startle the child. But you wouldn't come afraid. You wouldn't come scared. You wouldn't come afraid of his disapproval or his judgment or his wrath or his anger. Christmas, perhaps more than any day of the year, tells us what God really thinks about us. When it comes down to it, after centuries of religious hand-wringing and rule-following, he says enough with all of this, and he comes to us as a baby. He'll take care of the preparations. He'll take care of the rule following and all of the religion business. And he'll do that because it's really just you that he's after. It's not your religious performance or rule following. It's really just you. So he comes to us as a baby. We know this baby will grow, and eventually he'll suffer, and eventually he'll die, and then 3 days later he will be raised. But Easter feels a long ways off right now. Sometimes Good Friday seems to last so long. But Christmas reminds us, in the midst of our Good Friday feeling lives, how God came to us. And since he came to us as a baby, that tells us all we need to know about how we can come to him. It may seem awkward. It may seem nervous or uncertain. But do not be afraid. You who are weary or lonely or nervous or uncertain, be not afraid and let not your heart be troubled. Come to him and remember what you will find there. Where is God? He's in a stable. How do you come to him? You come to him boldly. And why should you come to him? Because there in the stable, which was the throne room of God, you will receive mercy. In the presence of God, you will receive smiles and the warmest welcome. Did you hear what verse 16 said? There in the throne room of God, you will find grace to help you when you need it most. I wish I could tell you what that would mean for you and for us, but I'm not entirely sure. He knows what you need, and he delights in caring for you. When you come to him, the help you receive may not be what you would expect, any more than you expected a baby God to come in a stable. But know this, when you come to God, you will receive mercy. You will receive grace. You will receive his help. Did you hear that? You will find help when you need it most. Where do you find God? He's right there. He's over there. He's around the corner. He's in the stable, which means he's in the dark corner of your world and the bright spotlights. Anywhere there is anywhere is where God is found. He's every place anything can ever be found. So go to him. How should you go to him? As a child would. Plainly, directly, unafraid and unashamed, without pretense, with nothing to prove and no one to impress. And what will you find? What will you receive? Mercy, grace, and help. Oh, how he loves you. How he loves you. So Merry Christmas, Sojourn. If you would stand and pray with me.